Mamdani did it. The man actually did it. They got a 2-year rent freeze. They actually did it. The Rent Guidelines Board actually went ahead and in spite of, we'll say, some contradictory market conditions, they actually approved the rent freeze. I see the liberals on Twitter seething over this.
And tenants celebrate after a vote tonight to freeze the rent. Good evening. I'm Christine Johnson. That decision impacts about 2 million New Yorkers who live in rent-stabilized apartments. The board took action to freeze one and...
What are they seething over? Rent freezes are bad in an Econ 101 way, but it turns out that it's actually a lot more complicated. For one, the idea that rent freezes are going to depress the quality and quantity of new housing construction would be a little bit more convincing to me if it wasn't for the fact that housing quality and quantity has been going down in every American city for decades. Like, rent freeze is clearly not causing the problem here. The problem here is that there are market incentives against building new housing. I don't know how much the rent freeze is going to contribute to that. The real problem, though, is that the reason New York City still feels like a real city and not like fucking Dubai is because in spite of how expensive it is to live there, there is a privileged class of, we'll say, middle-class people who are able to continue living there due to rent-stabilized apartments. If it wasn't for that rent stabilization, the only people who'd be able to afford to live in New York City are like Saudi princes, and the city would have no culture or character. You need to force prices down to a certain level to maintain the city's cultural core, and if you can't do that, they will all be replaced. It's like the cultural and even social consequences of allowing the core of New York City to be replaced over the course of a decade or two because you give up on the rent freezes would be catastrophic. Absolutely catastrophic. No, the problem here at the end of the day is the market pressure on the construction of new houses, and in an abundant sense, the amount of regulation preventing that construction. And market solutions are not going to get us out of this problem.
2-year leases, something the panel has never done before. But as Andrew Ramos reports, some say it could have long-term repercussions.
The motion passes.
An auditorium packed with tenants erupts in a thunderous applause at El Museo del Barrio in East Harlem. Following a historic vote to freeze rent for nearly 1 million rent-stabilized apartments, the city's Rent Guidelines Board delivered the 7-1 vote Thursday night, which will grant a rent freeze for 1 year and 2-year leases. Tenants say it's a game changer in the fight to keep New York affordable.
Oh my goodness, I'm ecstatic. I'm literally walking on cloud 9 right now.
I'm so proud of people my age and young people getting together and forming coalitions, because when we do that, we can make an impact.
The final vote, which came after more than a dozen public hearings and multiple data reports, was a punch in the gut for property owners.
Oh, no.
They are already struggling to maintain their buildings.
We'll have to lay off some of the supers. Only choice. It's a business. People don't get it.
Housing has costs, and this has become a political game.
Mayor Mamdani, who made freezing rent a centerpiece of his...
Like these people are just enemies of the working class. I'm sorry. Listen, okay? As long as the rent you receive costs more than the property taxes plus the cost of maintenance, that's it. I don't give a fuck if it's not profitable. Go get a fucking job. I don't care. You still own the property. That's the difference between you and the renters. Even if you're paying more in property taxes plus maintenance, you own the property. Even if you lived there, you would still have to pay the property taxes plus maintenance because you'd live there. You'd probably be spending more on maintenance. You own it. If you want to, you can divest. You can sell and make millions. I'm sorry that I'm sorry being like a land baron is not like a ticket to an easy 7 figures of passive income every year anymore. If you own like 5 properties on the West Side, I'm sorry. Fuck you. Just get a fucking job. I'm sorry it's not easy money to just get lucky and having gotten in on the properties back when they were cheap and now you're sitting on them and you're a fucking shit ass landlord who spends no money on repairs and the pipes freeze every winter. Fuck off.
His mayoral campaign now
Rent-seeking
fulfills
leeches.
a campaign promise. In a statement, the mayor said in part, "This is the relief that working people across our city deserve." Thursday's vote came amid some controversy where Christina Smith, a member of the city's rent guidelines board who represented landlords, resigned from her post. She suggested that the vote's outcome was already decided by the board, where 6 of the 9 members were appointed by Mayor Mamdani. But the mayor...
Also, every time one of these motherfuckers actually posts a breakdown of their expenses, they're totally full of shit. It's like when people who make $500,000 a year are like, bro, I can barely afford to live here. And then they break down their expenses and they're like, yeah, $26,000 a month in my Equinox membership. Yeah, this is how much I spend on my, maintaining my 3 sports cars. Like, they're always full of shit. I do not believe for a second that owning property in New York City is a money pit. I don't believe it. I don't believe you. I think you're lying. I think you are a liar, and I don't think that policy should be built around your dishonesty.
Insists the RGB is independent. While the vote may be popular with tenants, experts say the long-term impact may cause more problems than solve them.
We have a housing crisis, not just a rent crisis, but we're going to have a housing supply crisis as well.
There already was a housing supply crisis. It's also happening all across the country. It's not specific to New York. It's not being caused by the rent freeze. The reason we have a housing crisis is because the market incentives on new construction are just fundamentally broken. The rent freeze is not going to contribute to that. Or at least it's not going to cause that. It might contribute to that to some extent, but I think that can be solved by applying the solutions that would work in other areas as well. That is to say, you have to beat corporations with a stick until they build new housing.
And that may only get worse if we don't find ways to keep these buildings standing and operating in a decent condition.
Now, the leases that will be impacted by tonight's decision will begin after October 1st.
So fucking based, dog.
New York, the Independent Rent Guidelines Board just froze the rent. That means if you're one of the more than 2 million New Yorkers who lives in a rent-stabilized apartment, your rent's going to be frozen next year.
I wish I was in Mamdani's fridge. Didn't he dip in the water?
Hey, it's New York City. Come get ready with me. Summer is almost here, so...
This is not about the rent freeze. This is, though. It's also wild that no rent freeze has ever led to a mass exodus of developers. I just think it's hysterical that I'm supposed to believe that owning property in New York City is supposed to be like a bum deal because of these freezes. Are you fucking kidding me? Come on. How stupid do you think? This isn't like Columbus, Ohio, where it's possible that just no one wants to live there. If they built 10 million new properties in New York City, they would all be filled up. Everyone wants to live in New York City. What the fuck are you saying? Okay, I can't understand shit from this audio. Landlords react to NYC rent freeze? Yes, please.
You're watching Picks on Politics Daily with Dan Manarino.
I'm Henry Rossoff. Welcome to Picks on Politics Daily. We are following up on the big news in
polyester suit puckering around the chest pocket, wearing it with a polyester t-shirt, ear washed, shoulders too big. It's over. Genuinely, it's over. Is this the best the landlords have to offer?
the city. That would be the rent freeze. Mayor Mamdani promised
Mamdani,
it,
arrest
and now
this
it has
man.
been delivered by the Independent Rent Guidelines Board, although I know that some have concerns about how independent the board actually is and what all of this means. And to chop all of that up, I'm going to bring in Kenny Burgos from the New York Apartment Association. Kenny, thanks for taking a moment with us. So I know that you and your group oppose this, many landlords oppose this. Let's just take a zoom out look at this first. Why the opposition to this?
The opposition is because this is an artificial affordability program without accounting for costs. It's not that we don't acknowledge the affordability crisis in New York. It's very real. There's a reason why we also support the city PEP's expansion, which the mayor is against. So we talk
that's
about
the housing voucher program,
exactly.
And that's another hot topic right now.
Exactly. That is how you help tenants in need, not by just forcing property owners to somehow operate housing at a revenue cap, but then give them all.
I think you can. I'm sorry. I think you can. Like, I reject the mantra. I reject the doctrine that the only way to navigate these like really fundamental global problems with the market having like bad incentives that leads to poor procurement or bad outcomes over and over again, time and time again, in many places all around the world is through market incentives. I just don't believe it. I think that it's okay for the government to just say, fuck you, do the thing. I think that's fine. I think that landlords in New York City are probably doing pretty well. Don't see a lot of them on the street, you know?
All the expenses that every single housing provider has to deal with. Property taxes, insurance, water, sewer, labor, utilities. That is not...
Yeah, okay, and? Yeah, that's called like owning a property. I don't know. Yeah, it would be the same if you lived there. Literally all of those costs would be the same if you lived there. Also, do you pay utilities? Do you pay for upkeep? A lot of places in New York City, people got real bad, you know, slumlords. They don't get their shit run.
Housing that will be sustainable. That is not housing that will be quality. We are subjecting tenants to bankrupted buildings.
Let's break down what...
I think I would never want these claims taken seriously unless they can back it up by showing their finances. But they never fucking do. Also, if you can't afford it, sell it.
Actually happen. So effectively, this is a board that controls the price increase or no increase of about 1 million units of housing about 2 million New Yorkers. Those stats are right?
Correct.
Okay. And they've said over the next, if you want to be offered a 1-year lease and you're in this program, it's at 0%. Even a 2-year lease is offered at 0%. That 2-year portion, that's the unprecedented part of what happened, right?
Absolutely. It's unprecedented for
Also, is it common in New York City for landlords to pay utilities? Because if that's the case, I haven't heard that. He was like water, sewage, power. Are you paying for that? Because I don't think you're paying for that. I think the tenants are paying for that. I don't think you're paying for that.
And a 2-year, but it's also unprecedented given where we are today. People have to understand this housing didn't fall into disrepair this year or last year. It has been failing for the better part of a decade now. That rent guidelines board...
Well, no, it's been failing for decades. And the reason it's been like, again, the idea that housing is crumbling just in New York City, housing is crumbling everywhere. And everywhere it crumbles, it's for the same reason, because the government doesn't put enough pressure on landlords. That is the only reason it happens. If you can't afford to maintain the property, sell it. Housing crumbles all over the world. This is a global problem. Landlords fail to pay for upkeep. This is not specific to New York City. Everywhere that happens, everywhere on earth, it is because the landlord does not give enough of a shit. They want to make more money, so they don't want to spend enough on property maintenance. The idea that this is caused by rent freezes in the past decade, ridiculous. It's like fake econ 101. Did you know that like by placing an artificial like revenue cap, you're imposing downward pressure on the supply? Okay, but we have these problems absolutely everywhere. So maybe it's just you're greedy and the government's not doing enough to force you in line. It's a utility. Utilities have to be regulated.
Has come in under inflation for 10 years. Those decisions compound. That's how you get deferred maintenance. That's how you push these repairs off.
Yeah, man, there's no deferred maintenance elsewhere in the world. There's no deferred maintenance in New York City prior to the rent freeze. Fuck you.
On top of that, you have one of the most impactful laws in 2019 that really defunded this housing. Layer that on with all the cost increases that I referenced a little bit earlier. Let's get specific.
Just compare rentee bankruptcy to renters. It's not even close. Yeah, seriously, man. If you're losing so much money on your fucking landlording, then just sell it and be a renter. We'll see how you do. Let's just compare the financial well-being of New York City landowners and landlords to renters. Let's just take a ballpark at how their finances are looking. Come on, man. Jesus Christ.
Mayor Mamdani's water board is going to increase water rates 6% starting July 1st. Property taxes for rent stabilized buildings past 5 years have doubled. Let's talk about the insurance. Mamdani himself has acknowledged the insurance crisis is completely destroying housing.
And that's one area where he has done some focus intended to benefit landlords. He's trying to pool insurance, as I understand it, to make it easier.
He's acknowledged the problem.
Not just landlords, landowners. That's not a landlord-specific benefit, but okay.
And yes, he's pushing forward a program, but it's a pilot program. And by their own metrics, it would cover maybe 20,000 apartments in the next 2 years. there's 1 million rent stabilized units, so it's just not enough. And you can't sit there and say we can provide a rent freeze for 2 years and then maybe we'll give you some assistance down the line and expect this housing to be high quality.
Did these people even realize how they sound? This guy coming onto like local news to say landlords have it too tough. I don't think they realize how fucking hated they are. At the end of the day, like let's get into like real politic, okay? Let's get into real property, like sorry, not property. Well, I guess it is property, but real like proper power dynamics here, okay? At the end of the day, the land-owning class is a distinct category of people, especially in places like New York City where there's so much money and so much legacy. And these people have to recognize that they are constantly playing a politics game where they have to make their case to the majority. Unfortunately for them, we do live in a democracy, which means that if they want to continue to thrive, they need to make a good case for their existence and for their profits to the majority. And these people are so delusional and out of touch, they can't do that anymore. You need to make a case so good that the vast majority of people who live in New York City who are not fucking landlords, you know, maybe they own their own property, but they're not landlords, are going to vote for candidates who are going to pass policies that are in favor of you, that support your interests. You need to play the political game. But they can't play the political game. They just come across as contemptuous assholes because they are contemptuous assholes. They're not they don't even try to do the. You understand what I'm talking about? Like in a real politics sense, you know, they need to advocate for their interests, recognizing they are a privileged minority. And in order for them to do that, they need to make their case, and they cannot make their case if they come onto local news and they're like, think about the land. Mamdani's not doing enough for us. What about us? We're hurting too. Nobody gives a fuck, dog. You're not hurting as much as the people who are in those rent-frozen apartments, okay?
What do you say to tenants who, and I've interviewed a number of them, I'm sure you've heard from a number of them, that just say, hey, my roof's caving in, my lobby hasn't been updated in forever. Why the heck should I have a rent increase?
I completely understand their frustration, and what they have to understand is the cost to operate this housing is completely unsustainable and at no fault of the property.
Sure, then provide the books. Then provide the books. Provide the books. I want to see it. I just want to, literally, you could shut everyone up if you would just prove that it's unprofitable. See, you can always sell. You can always sell.
Property owners. There are so many costs that government itself controls. I hate to be repetitive, but property taxes is at the control of government. Utilities, the government's regulations would influence the cost there. When you talk about insurance, the mayor is trying to influence that. So all of these costs get baked in on top of tons of regulation that comes from city council.
Yeah, but all of these costs would still be incurred if you lived there. This is a choice you're making. If it's so bad they would sell it, they don't sell it because they're lying. Literally, yeah, it comes down to that. At the end of the day, if it was mathematically better for them to just sell the property because it was at a loss at this point, they would do it. They own property in New York City. They could nail millions, tens of millions, depending on how much they own. They could do it like that. It's New York City. We're talking about a very, very, very high demand here, okay? They're just lying.
Well-intended, but they do not fund these measures. So when you continue push up these costs, but then the government says
I just hate how much like the specter of economic realism is leveraged against leftists when the economists in question are like Twitter globe heads or landlords. It's not actually, the math is not actually mathing. The idea that the rent freeze is bad and damaging. The idea that these people, these landlords are struggling, it's not true. And your solutions aren't working. We have a housing crisis all across the country, all across the Western world.
You can only charge X amount. That money gets siphoned out to government and it doesn't exist and fund your building. And that is why these buildings are seeing broken elevators.
Also siphoned out the government. If you want to know whether or not you should trust a person's econ advice, listen to how they talk about taxes. Siphoned out to government. Buddy, this isn't the property taxes aren't federal. They're not going to the federal government so they can be spent on bombs to Israel. They're going to New York City. And New York City has an actual budget. They use that money. It's not getting siphoned off. The property taxes exist for a reason. They're not there to punish you. You are the one siphoning off wealth. Unlike property taxes, which go to the city and then get reinvested in the city, where the fuck does your wealth go? You're a fucking parasite, dog. You're a fucking leech.
Roofs that need repairs. You just don't have enough funding to operate this private housing that is just regulated by government.
I think you do.
Let's talk about next steps. You and I spoke the other day ahead of the vote when the writing was on the wall here about the potential of lawsuits. Let me ask you the point-blank question. Will your group bring a lawsuit?
Litigation is always a tool. We are always exploring it. And the reality is you had a sitting member of the Rent Guidelines Board who has gone through this process, resigned in protest yesterday and put out a letter stating that this process is completely influenced by the mayor. She has said that this is a theatrical process, that this cake was baked in order to deliver the freeze that he's been calling for a year. So that really calls into question the independence of this board. It calls into question the process of this board. How is it so that the government can look at all the data, all the numbers that I have laid out, the acknowledgement that the mayor has made?
Show the numbers. Show the numbers. If you were losing money, you could sell. Why haven't you sold? You still own property. How many properties do you have? What's this guy's name? One second. What's this guy's fucking name?
This means, and to chop all of that up, I'm going to bring in Kenny Burgos from the New York Apartment Association.
Kenny Burgos, New York Apartment Association. Inaugural CEO of the New York Apartment Association, whose diverse membership owns and manages nearly 1 million affordable... Okay, hold on. Fucking affordable housing units in the New York metropolitan area, make the head of the largest trade organization representing private multifamily building owners in the country, with private multifamily building owners too. So we're talking about a guy who owns not like an apartment block, at minimum one, but he's the CEO of this organization. So something tells me it's not one. As an assembly member for New York's 85th in the Bronx, Kenny was at the forefront of housing policy reform. During his time in the assembly, he spearheaded critical legislation aimed at revamping rent stability. Oh yeah. Housing policy reform. Don't freeze the rent. Oh, yeah. The groundbreaking, innovative policy reform, like make it illegal to make the rent go high, or make it illegal to keep the rent from going higher. Yeah. I'm sure. Champion bills to extend housing tax credits. Fuck you. New York City Council, family or small business owners. It's a big organization. Leverage short form video and social media to bypass traditional media gatekeepers. He's big on TikTok, YouTube Shorts, blah, blah, blah. Appeared on multiple power lists, 2024 Bronx Power 100, Real Estate Power 100, How much does he own? Kenny Burgos Properties. His Instagram says, CEO at Housing New York, former lawmaker trying to hit my daily protein. Love my fucking Zoomer hustle culture. Let me see, he was on Fox Business 4 hours ago. How much does he own? Owns 2 properties in the Bronx, one residence in Throgs Neck and an investment/rental property in Soundview. Okay, 2 properties. I don't know what those properties are. Followed by AOC. That, in fairness, that does make sense. He's powerful and locally influential. It makes sense AOC would follow him. I can't blame her for that. Apparently, he used to be on good terms with Mamdani, but now they're beefing over this. Mamdani and I were good friends. Now he's mayor. We're frenemies. Ugh.
What's the best solution for both tenants and landlords here?
I'm glad you asked, because there is a solution that is actually win-win-win across the board. Hard to believe, but we have to look at other rent control systems across the country. All of them have never dared to do what we do here, which is that 2019 rent law that implemented vacancy control. What they allow is for a reset upon turnover. That allows a property owner to invest in the unit and bring it back as a rent-stabilized unit. That is how you protect in-place tenants on their rents today. That is how you fund housing without government intervention or subsidy or cost. And that is
I like government intervention though. Again, like a person who was really interested in economics would, okay, at the end of the day, this is what it comes down to, okay? People advocate for their perceived self-interest. He is very aware of his self-interest. He's literally a politician turned leader of New York City's largest landlord guild, okay? What he says is ultimately designed to maximize his own profits. It is not to make New York City a better or more affordable place. When he says avoid government intervention, that's a moral prior that he's introducing for reasons that have nothing to do with our interests and everything to do with his. There is no reason at all why avoid government intervention should be a priority if you were concerned with the well-being of the tenant. The reason he prioritizes it is because government intervention cuts into his profit margins. That's it. But you all know that. You all get it. You all get it. Whatever, man. Anyway, yeah, got the rent freeze. I've just not been convinced by arguments that this is economically damaging. I know that there are some smarty-head liberals who have arguments against it, but I think that there are better arguments for it. Simple as. Statement from the board member who resigned right before the vote. What a bitch. What a little pussy. Ooh. Let me see. Christina Smith. Rent Guidelines Board has stopped being a fact-finding body. It has become a body that starts with an answer and vibe codes its way backward to justify it. Well, she's complaining that the Rent Guidelines Board basically ignored market conditions in favor of implementing the rent freeze, but I think that's fine. Because I think the market condition priors that they were basing their assessment off weren't necessary, you know? Human conditions are more important than market conditions. Also, the market conditions can be controlled. Like, the market is not this amorphous, all-powerful, uncontrollable force. You can wrangle it into shape, you know? Everything is getting worse everywhere in spite of the government taking a hands-off position for decades. Like, the government has done nothing over the since Reagan's administration, but take off more and more of their hands. Hey, listen, if you want to avoid government regulation, I've got great news for you on what Trump's been up to, okay? Because Trump has been both proposing and implementing huge rollbacks on the Endangered Species Act, on greenhouse gas regulations. Trust me, if deregulation solved these problems, they would have been solved a long time ago. I do not believe that is the solution. And I don't think the evidence suggests it either. The problem is it takes properties off the market, and so prices go up for everyone not stabilized. Okay? Prices are going up anyway. Again, like, you're referring to a set of economic conditions that it's already happening. The consequences you're referring to are omnipresent. Like, the prices are going up anyway. Everywhere. It reminds me of when people are like, you can't raise the minimum wage, it'll reduce employment. But then you see that unemployment is going up even in places that still have the base federal minimum wage. Like, it's, look at that. Seattle implemented a $21 an hour minimum wage, and now McDonald's is replacing their cashiers with machines. McDonald's was doing that in fucking Oklahoma, too. You fucking liar. That had nothing to do with the fucking minimum wage increase. They're doing that everywhere. If corporations can save money, they'll do it everywhere. They're not just going to do it in places where the minimum wage is higher. Landlords refuse to rent an apartment for 20 years because rent control would limit the rent to $800 a month. Anything that forces them to leave apartments vacant is probably bad. Let's take a look.
I'm standing in a time capsule from the 70s. This is a one-bedroom apartment in the Bronx that rents for $811 a month. That's if the landlord were to actually put it up for rent. This is a rent-stabilized apartment, but look around. The landlord says there is so much work that has to be done here to bring it up to code that it doesn't make financial sense to rent it out.
The owner is deciding to lose less money by just keeping it vacant.
Chipped and peeling lead paint and out.
Then why not sell it? The solution here, increase their taxes until they're forced to sell it. Have a vacancy tax. Sell the property.
Outdated bathroom and that red carpet, far from luxurious.
Not exactly the red carpet people want to walk into.
Kenny Burgos is the CEO of the New York Apartment Association and advocates on behalf of landlords who own rent-stabilized apartments.
Hey, I've seen this guy before.
Like this one in Mount Eden. It's been vacant since the last tenant moved out around 2021.
Why is this apartment still vacant so many years later?
Because the law today says that when the tenant moves out, you still, of course, before law and after, you would have to upgrade and renovate this unit and bring it up to the current housing standard of 2026. The difference is now the law says we don't really care what you spend. You cannot change the rent from the previous tenants.
A 2019 change to the state's rent laws got rid of the 20% vacancy bonus, where landlords could hike rents for new tenants.
It's really a crisis.
Assemblywoman Linda Rosenthal, chair of the Housing Committee, voted for that bill.
We found that with the 20% vacancy bonus, it was an incentive for landlords to harass tenants out. Finally, we righted the scales. Landlords didn't like that, and what they said immediately...
Who would buy a property that wouldn't be able to affordably renovate? Well, that would just mean the seller would have to lower the price of the sale. I don't give a fuck. The idea that New York City's municipal policy should be adjusted so that every person who owns property gets a massive windfall when they sell? Fuck that. I don't give a fuck if you take a loss in the sale. I don't care about you. You own a property in New York. You're fine. Sell and go live in some podunk town. I don't give a shit, dog. You're just one guy. I don't give a fuck about you. Also, they could. This is like a very easy problem to solve. Okay, what is it's one property, $800 a month. First of all, it looks like that place hasn't been renovated since the 70s. You know what that means? The owner of that apartment building has not been keeping their tenants' houses up to code for decades. The only reason they got away with it for so long is because it was the same resident there. I bet he left or died or whatever, maybe during COVID. So like this is decades and decades and decades of neglect piling up, and now you can't afford. Oh, let's take a look at your books over the past couple of years. New York City apartment building owner. Let's take a look at your books. Let's see whether or not you truly couldn't afford to get the fucking lead out of the paint on the walls. Fuck you. Fuck these people. We're not bailing your ass out, man.
After we passed it was, we're going to keep apartments off the market.
What do you say to that?
I say, what do they then say to landlords who have already gone bankrupt, who've already been in foreclosure?
Show them to me. Show me the landlords that have gone bankrupt. Oh, by go bankrupt, you mean they're like closing their business in a way that allows them to preserve their assets or selling off and getting millions in a golden parachute? Come on, show me personal bankruptcy from landowners. You're not going to find it. You're not going to find it because they own property in New York City.
Definitely wrong. The tug of war between landlords and tenants advocates leaves lifelong.
Like Trump went bankrupt multiple times as a business owner, but it didn't matter. He was still rich as fuck. The idea that going bankrupt as a business owner is the same as going bankrupt personally, this is the kind of ignorance they're expecting you to have that they can take advantage of. When he says go bankrupt, he thinks that you, a stinky little proletarian, is going to think, oh, like going personally bankrupt, you know, like you can't afford to pay your bills. No, he means the business goes bankrupt, which usually means the people who own it still make out super fucking rich.
New Yorkers like Troy Williams caught in limbo.
I live in a tier 2 shelter right now, and that's why I have a voucher now, you know. And I'm really trying to, you know, get back to where I was this time 2 years ago.
So just how many rent-stabilized apartments are sitting empty with low rents that need extensive repairs? Well, we actually just got an answer from the city's Department of Housing Preservation and Development. A survey found just under 2,500 units that have been vacant for a year or more, needing extensive repairs with rents below.
Just under 25 units in a city with like millions and millions of people. Also, fuck you, show me their books. Also, don't care, sell it. 25K. Didn't he say 2,500?
100 units. Housing Preservation and Development. A survey found just under 2,500 units.
2,500. Less than 1%. A fraction of a single percent. Also, fuck you, sell it. Also, it's a survey? I don't believe you. Never ask a landlord and expect them to tell the truth.
In a major victory for Mayor Mamdani, the Rent Guidelines Board approves a rent freeze for nearly 1 million rent-stabilized units. But landlords call the process a farce, telling Christina Fan renters will ultimately pay the price.
Not because of the rent freeze.
This is just cosplaying fairness. This isn't real fairness.
Jan Lee, whose family has owned this Chinatown building for nearly a century.
Oh, dude. You're lucky they don't run you out of town. Are you fucking kidding me? Dude. Fucking feudal landlord, man. Jan Lee, NYC. Hold on. Like every random person they bring on the news, this guy has a history. Oh, hello there. Jan Lee previously told Fox News Digital many immigrant landlords came to America to escape socialist and communist countries. Yeah. We had to leave our plantation in Cuba. I know. You've owned the building for over a century. Your family has. What did you flee? What communist did you flee a century ago? Are you Russian? A century? When did you... I'm assuming you're Chinese. I'm just gonna guess if your family moved to the New York City since the early 1900s. Lee emphasized his family's deep roots in the city, noting his family's been providers of housing, job creators, in New York City since the early 1900s. Jesus fucking Christ. Bro fled the Ming Dynasty. Oh my god. I need this guy's like net worth. And like all the random people they bring on the news, this guy's connected to like a million local housing orgs, social media, not just a random guy, of course. Holy shit. Family first became rooted in Chinatown when his grandfather arrived there at the end of the 19th century, fleeing communism. I know he was referring to immigrants broadly, but fuck you. You know what you're implying. Exact net worth is private, blah-de-blah. His work in the real estate space is heavily documented. Property ownership, community activism. Dude, this guy's a bitch. My right to free political speech was violated on June 13th at approximately 4 p.m. when campaign posters supporting candidates I endorse were torn down from my private property and replaced with a poster for Uline. Uline, will your campaign respond? Do you condemn this conduct, or is this the kind of behavior your campaign tolerates? At Mariama James 13, at MM6309, blah, 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 Chris Martel, blah, 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 hashtag trespass, hashtag theft, hashtag campaign, hashtag illegal. Fuck you, dude. Fuck off. Jesus fucking Christ. These people are fucking insufferable. Spiritually Israeli behavior? Yep. If you want to freeze the rent, freeze these first. Property tax, insurance, utility bills? Nah. These people are so fucking contemptible. If nothing else, going over this just helps you remember that, like, how fucking evil they are, man.
is crying foul, accusing the Rent Guidelines Board of freezing rent, despite mounds of data he says shows rising costs for landlords.
They're not even hiding the bias anymore. The mayor had
anti-landlord bias
campaigned on a rent freeze. He appoints 75% of the board, and now he's got his hand on the scale.
Just hours before Thursday's meeting, drama
totally different to before when Adams put a bunch of like freak pro landlord people on the renters board, you know?
Folded when Christina
Yeah,
Smith,
they had no issue with the Adams appointees. It's not biased when it's on their side.
a member of the board who represented landlords, resigned from her post, accusing the process of being broken and unjust. But it did little to sway the result, as the Rent Guidelines Board voted 7-1 in an historic first to approve a 0% increase on both 1- and 2-year leases. Renters say the measure was necessary as they struggle to combat inflation and cuts to social services.
It's going to do so much to really affect my life in a good way.
I feel very good because in New York, that's one of the biggest problems that we have. You know, rent is high and we really needed it stabilized.
Mayor Mamdani, who campaigned on freezing the rent, insisted the board's decision would be fair and impartial. He responded to the outcome saying in part, "This is the relief that working people across our city deserve." But Lee says it's renters who the freeze will ultimately hurt.
If we keep eroding one side of the equation,
I'm sure, man. They really do act like medieval barons. Oh, no. You don't understand. Everything I do is for your benefit. You actually benefit from our patronage. No. Trust me, I, as a New York City property owner, would never, ever rent seek as a landlord. You know why they call it rent seeking? You know why the term for extracting additional profit without reinvestment or additional production is called rent seeking?
something's got to give, and the people in those buildings are going to suffer. So there has to be some kind of fairness and recognition of the math.
The freeze will impact more than 2 million rent-stabilized tenants throughout the city and will affect leases that
If his building's too expensive to maintain, he should sell it and go out get a job like the rest of us. Right? Saving money and be able to afford rent will hurt tenants. I don't give a fuck what landlords want or think. Yeah. Good. Everyone hates them. Sorry, buddy, you didn't do politics right. Your class has assumed that for the rest of time, your interests would be indefinitely represented by local government because you can buy seats. But no longer. Finally, the person you all opposed, a person representing the working class, is in charge. And now, it turns out, wow, everyone fucking hates you.